difficulties. I totally lost the signal, so I just had to restart the live. All right. So I more or less just really had to restart everything. All right. So I do apologize for that. For those of you who were here and got caught in terms of the process, I do apologize. But I had just done at the end of part one of the live. I just gone through the four sections that are going to be part of the Ace Excellent English Summary section. And I was just saying that what's included would be these curated questions that are there to mimic exam, what kind of comes in the exam. They each cover topics that are, some topics for the exam seem very odd. Some very odd, some very interesting, it's definitely very unique. So you've got these four topics or these four different uh, replica questions. Let's call them replica questions, okay? And I actually go through these questions, and what I do sort of explain the purpose, sort of explain the main points or the key points. I show you how to write the main ideas, and I actually show you samples for each of them. So, for example, the one that I love to start with, and it's one of my favorite, is the concept of the coffee house, right? Because I love iced coffee. I'm a Starbucks girl, right? So, concept of the coffee house, you have that particular article, and you're also going to get me in terms of material, in terms of explanations. I'm going to go through three sets of ideal responses for main points as well as a summary. Because you have to understand, sometimes you can nail the main point and mess up the summary. It happens. Sometimes this one's a little rarer, a lot more rare, where you would do a really good job with the summary and sort of mess up the main points, but that can happen as well. All right. So looking at concept of the coffee house or any of the others, you're just going to get three ideal responses. And then when it comes to what not to do, I've also included examples of what not to do. I have a very specific concept of what not to do for summary, and you'll see me explain that. I believe I explained it a bit in the freemium version of this particular program. The freemium version is an excellent gateway into understanding how I'll be presenting information to you learners, as well as how I would be covering some of the information on what I would be focusing on, as well as my style, because maybe my style may just not work for you. And if that's the case, then, that's just the case. You go get someone who definitely aligns with you better. Hey, Alex Robinson, I am doing quite fine. I hope you are well. All right. So essentially, that's the beauty of this particular course. And you are getting all the content, all the material. You're getting replica questions to work on. You're getting sample responses. You're getting multiple sample responses, because I understand that your responses for English A, they are not an answer. And that's something you have to understand. There is no answer. There is a spectrum of answers. The answers are on a spectrum. All right. So you have to actually learn how to understand one, your writing style, because that's pretty crucial. You have to understand your writing style, and you also have to understand how to use your style of expression and fit it within this particular criteria, within this particular style of this particular, I want to say, function of writing, because summary is actually informative writing, right? It is actually informative writing. And because it's informative, you really do have to stick to that. You can't deviate from reporting the facts from the original article. Okay. And that's where a lot of persons get confused in terms of understanding whether they're doing a top tier summary or a top tier main points, because you start to either do too little, you're giving me less than the bare minimum. All right. And those are one of my non ideal responses that I do include. Or you're not just not giving me the bare minimum, you're giving me way too much. You start to embellish it. You start to tell me about your own experiences. Instead of just telling me about what coffee houses are like, you tell me about the bad time you had at a coffee house or a great experience you had. You go into creative writing mode, or, and this is just as bad, you go into persuasive writing mode. And I've seen a lot of students fall into those traps. And it's just, you've got to do a balancing act and stay in the article. You have to know, what does this author, what does this writer, what is his or her purpose? And then you've got to figure out, how do I convey this purpose using my own words? Using your own words is really tricky as well, because if you're not writing, it's going to hard to know what words normally come to you. First off, I have a very good notion of the words that I use quickly, or how I would phrase things. So when I'm giving feedback to students, I'm always very mindful of how I would say something versus how my students would say something. So that's why, if anyone is going to be part of like my like a top member in my regular classes, I'm so sorry, I'm actually doodling to help myself think. That's why anyone who's going to be a top member in any of my classes and actually get weekly feedback from me, those learners tend, I need to see their work, I need to see their writing, I need to know more about who they are, so I can pull out more information from them, so I can pull out more of what their style should be, right? I'm hearing my family. Okay. And you would eventually have to learn that, and the only way you can do that is if it is you get better at your own writing. Writing is all about practice, and writing is not necessarily about, I'm going to become a writer. It's about just getting better at expressing yourself in writing. All right. Azida Abubakar said, "You're so," and there's a string of letters that I can't pronounce. Alex said, "Hi," and then Alex Robinson said, "I have a question." Sure, Alex, go ahead with your question while Alex is typing that question. I hope it's a pertinent question, Alex. I hope it's pertinent. Is it pertinent? Go ahead with your question, Alex. Um, But essentially, this is the purpose of this course. This course is, it's not free. I do a freemium version. There is a freemium version on my channel. I try to make a playlist, and I make a lot of promises in these lives. I apologize. Right? Make a playlist of freemium. I make a lot of promises. Freemium ACE videos, yeah, because this is the ACE program. So this is going to be on sale by the end of this year. Sorry, the end of this month. I'm actually doing early access for the entire course. Everything should be fully updated by probably March. So I will be giving some feedback here. It's going to be really reasonably priced, with the option of making a full advance payment or doing a monthly payment, because again, I just want everybody to have access to as much information as possible to get better at English A. Alex says, "What are you talking about right now? Because I don't know." Okay, so what I'm talking about is a course I'm coming out with. And that course is going to be fully online for CSEC English A. That's an exam that's in the Caribbean, and it's going to uh, cater for students or learners, I say learners, who would be then in a position to study on their own for the exam. They don't have to basically interact with a teacher, they can do everything on their own. So that's what I'm talking about right now. And this is just one of my Monday night live sessions, and I talk about different topics for either CSEC English A or CSEC Spanish or Cape Communication Studies. They are all Caribbean based exams. All right. So, yes. Thank you so much, Alex Robinson. I appreciate that. All right. So summary is going to come out this month, and it's something that I had to retweak because I'm a perfectionist. So I'm really glad it's going to come out this month. Short story should be coming out in December, and I believe between of course between Jan and March, argumentative as well as informative will come out, and a few other things should be out as well in time for the exam. Okay. Thank you so much, Alex. It's because I read the entire name. Bueno. All right. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me again for another Monday Night Live. Of course, next week we're going to continue at the same time. All right. But next week we're going to continue, and next week we're going to talk about. Uh, no, that's not it. Next week in episode 10, we're going to talk about what are tips for CSEC Spanish conversation. All right, because CSEC Spanish conversation, the oral exams is coming up, and I may be having a very special class just for orals prep, which I will let you know more about in next week's session. So, as always, please stay subscribed to the channel. Uh, Classes and courses with Coach Chanel. Again, I am Coach Chanel. I am the one who comes on and prepares not just the Monday Night Lives, but all the other material on this channel. I do have a lot of work to do, but I hope you're here with me to make suggestions. I did get a lovely suggestion in the first half of this video, in part one of this video, so I really appreciated that suggestion. But the aim, as always, is to help as many students in the Caribbean be more confident and competent at writing in standard English. All right, just to get more competent and confident, and that's the aim. All right, so I'll see you next week again at about 10:30 Atlantic Standard Time, and we're going to talk about Spanish in the next session. So those of you who have friends who are writing Spanish next year or writing in 2027 and you want really good tips from now, these tips are for now. These are just basic tips. Of course, share the channel, spread the message, and as always, stay